Hey, Chad here with LearnMixedReality.com and ChadCarr.net. I'm glad you're back as we continue down this journey of creating a game from start to finish for these mixed reality devices. And last week we worked with animation. That's what we have up here is the animation animator. So we're going to close these as we get prepared for today's session. And today's session is actually adding sound. And so when our items are going to be shuffling around, we're going to create a sound for that. When the user selects the right item, then we'll have a sound for that. And if they select the wrong item, we'll have a sound for that. Now, you could also have a totally different sound for when they get a strike if you want to. I'm not going to be adding one of those, but you could definitely do that if you wanted to add that sound effect. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right in. And to begin with, I'm going to browse to a site called freesound.org. Freesound.org, I'm going to do a search here for shuffle. And I imagine we'll probably get, there's different things. Domino shuffle, shuffling. I've listened to some of these. And the one that I want to use is actually the one called close shuffling. And we can see it's actually a public domain sound, so it's kind of perfect for what I need. So I'm going to hit play. And so that's really what I want to use here. So I'm going to select that. And I'm going to download that one. And while we're doing that, let's go and do another search here. I'm going to look for like a right answer. This one's public domain. The very first one, I like that. So I'll download him. And then we just need a wrong answer. Alright, and we're just going to grab this very first one, wrong buzzer. So basically, I'm going to have this closed shuffling one, FSX Magic, and wrong buzzer. So if you want to, you can go and download those, or just have your own sounds, and I'm going to bring those into Unity. Alright, so back in Unity, I'm going to right click and say new folder. We'll call it resources. And this is important for us to be able to load these after the fact. And under resources, I'm just going to create another folder here. It's not important, but just in case I want to add anything else under resources later, make it called audio. And I'm going to drag in the 3 wave files that just downloaded into the audio place. And so I'm going to rename this so that it's not quite so long. And in fact, I think I'm just going to rename these to something a bit different, like box sliding. And we'll say correct answer and incorrect answer. But I believe I want to actually modify these just a little bit. So I'm going to bring up a tool I have called Audacity. And I actually have this box sliding wave. So you can see I'm actually in where my assets are. And it's kind of long right now. Right, so it's like 9.5 seconds. Way too long for what we need. We're just shuffling for like, about 1.5 seconds, a little bit less. So to begin with, I'm just going to take it down here to the 4-second mark and select all that. Go into Audacity's edit and clip boundaries, split new. It's probably an easier way to do this. This is the way I do it. And then I'm going to delete the first track. Right. So now I only have that 4-second clip. And that, compared to the other sounds, is pretty low. So if I come and actually bring in correct answer, we'll hit play. the correct answer is a whole lot louder, which is pretty good actually, the volume of it. An incorrect answer is a lot more louder. So what I want to do is change my box sliding. I'm going to go to Effect and Amplify and change it to maybe 20. Let's preview that. So that's pretty good. I might actually take it down just a little bit, maybe 15. Yeah. And of course you can play with this however you want to, but I'm going to do is 15, and then I'm going to export the audio. And I'm going to export it to the box sliding.wave. I have my original in my downloads folder, so I just want to update in place this box sliding wave. So I'm going to hit save there. And I'm going to let it update that. And now that's done, I'm actually going to close this and say open. And we're going to open up incorrect answer. And I think I'm going to make him just a little bit quieter. Yeah. So let's go to Effect, Amplify, and go the other way. Still a little bit louder than I want. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we'll do that. And I'm just going to save this by saying Export Audio and selecting incorrect answer. And let it overwrite. Okay, so I'm going to close down my Audacities here. And might as well get rid of that as well. And so box sliding has been updated, correct answer, incorrect answer. And so that's what we're actually going to work with here. So to begin with, let's go over here to our play area. And let's create, under table here, just create a new empty game object. We'll call it item. We'll call it item audio source. And we're going to add a component of audio source. We won't have it play on awake, and don't think we're going to have a loop either. Instead, we're just going to leave that as it is. And that's all we really need to do with the item audio source at this point. So let's go ahead and save the scene here and go to our scripts. Well, in fact, instead of just going to our scripts, what we'll do is just come straight to Visual Studio. And here in Visual Studio, let's go and create a brand new class. I'm going to call it Sounds. And we'll get rid of the namespace and make it a public class. It'll have a constructor, and we're going to need to know our audio source. So we're going to need to use the Unity engine. So I'm going to hit Control Dot on audio source and bring in Unity engine. We're going to clean up our namespaces up here. And we'll want to have access to that. So I'll just make a private audio source. And then we'll set that. Now we need to determine how we're going to pass that into this object. So let's go back over to the game controller, and we're going to have a private sounds, and so we could create this by doing the same thing we did with our animations, by exposing in our game controller, exposing an object for our audio source and actually drag our audio source to that. Or we could do it more like we did our text objects, where we created a tag, and then inside of our let's say find sound object, we could then grab the audio source component of our object with whatever tag we assigned it to. So we could go either path. So let's go and set ours up kind of like we did the find text object. So just create a new method, and we'll call it setup audio source. And just like this, we're going to say private void setup audio source. And we'll say sounds equals new sounds. And this is where we're going to pass in the audio sources we're going to find. So we're going to say game object dot find game object with tag. We need to give it some tag. We're going to get a component, and we of course want the audio source. But we need to determine what kind of tag we're going to give it. So I'm just going to say item audio source. But of course, we don't want to just have a magic string, so we're going to say res.dat. And then inside of our res class, we're going to create a string, just like we talked about. So if this is not familiar with you, definitely make sure you check out the last session where you talked about animations, and we actually added some things to, we added in motion to this resource class. And as around the time we did the scoring, I believe, is when we actually first generated this class. Okay, but we're going to add in this resource text field here, item source, and now our setup audio source is fine, and we're calling it here, so that's good, but we haven't actually set the tag. So let's go back here to Unity, and we need to add in our tag. So let's say add tag, and add it here, and hit save. So now we have this item audio source tag added. Let's actually associate the tag with our item audio source. So we've done that. Let's go back over here to Visual Studio, and now that we have our sounds object set up, we actually want to call a function on here to actually start playing a particular sound. Okay, so here in our start turn is where we're doing our animations, animate items. Similarly, we want to do sounds and like play idle shuffling sounds, or sound actually, just one. So let's create that method over here in our sounds. We'll just say public void. So in order to play this, we want to actually set the audio sources clip to something, and we need to actually load it to an audio clip. So let's go ahead and create a private audio clip, and we'll just call this what, item shuffling clip. And we need to initialize this somehow. So let's say item shuffling clip. And remember, we added this to our resources folder. So we can do a resources.load and say we're trying to load in an audio clip, and then pass something to that. So back here in Unity, in our resources, audio, here we have the clips, box sliding, correct answer, incorrect answer. So what we want to do is actually pass in the value. So like audio and what we call it, box sliding. But of course, we don't really want to use this magic string here. So we're going to say resource dot item shuffling clip. And our resource will just say public static read only string item shuffling clip is equal to that text. And so now we need to actually assign our audio source clip to this item shuffling clip. And then we can also set our audio source to loop to true. And finally, we just want to actually play the clip. play that audio source that has that clip loaded now. Just like we have to play, let's also stop the item shuffling sound. And for this, we're just simply going to check to see if the audio source is playing. So if audio source is playing, then we actually want to call audio source.stop. Well, soon I can type it in, stop. There we go. So let's go back to our game controller and actually call these methods. So we have our sounds object that we found, and here we had where we actually want to start playing those animation sounds. So as we're animating the items in our start turn, is we want to start animating the sound. So we'll just say sounds dot and then play item shuffling sound. Okay, and likewise when we stop playing here in the reset complete, we're stopping the animations. We might as well also stop the shuffling sound. So let's jump back to Unity, and we can check on item source, and let's hit play. Okay, we heard it, and it stopped before the animation was done. So let's take a look at our animation itself. Go to Window, open up my animator, and select the table that we animated. And let's watch this one more time. So we see the animation, it does it once and it does it twice. So let's check our transition. And first of all, let's change it. Since item default and item animation work the same way, we'll just drag it all the way to the end here. That way, there's no reason to transition from one to the other, because the starting position of item animation is the same as the position inside of item default. Okay. And likewise, might as well do the same thing here. That when item animation ends, it's going to be in the same position as item default. Not that that's going to affect anything other than just kind of making that more correct, something we should have done last time. But the other thing I want to do is here on the exit, instead of having exit time, we're not going to just exit when it's done with the animation. We'll just exit when in motion is false. Okay, so let's see how that works for us. And we see it played, and the animation played once, and we heard the sound once. So let's go ahead and select one of these items, select another one, and the last one, and then animation. Yep, animation started, and the sound played. We'll do it again. Perfect. So our animation's playing, and the sound's playing, just like we want it to be. Okay, great. Now what we need to do is hook up our correct answer and incorrect answer. So we're done with the animation. Again, should have done that during the animation session. I know I mentioned it, lining these things up, but I didn't. And then in particular, once we had the sound is when it's pretty obvious that I should have removed this has exit time, so it doesn't wait for the entire animation to finish before it exits. So because it basically will start the animation, try to start it again, and then exit out based off the timing. So let me close the animator tab here. Now let's jump back to our code. And in the sounds class, we're going to create a couple more clips here. So the first clip is going to be our match made clip. And the second one's going to be our match not made clip. and we want to load those kind of the same way here. So we'll first use the match made, and that's going to be a match made clip we'll need to create, and the match not made, and match not made clip. So let's go to our resources here and do that, and it's going to be match made clip and match not made clip. Let's go back to Unity. I'm pretty sure it's just correct answer and incorrect answer, but let's check Unity and make sure. So I'm going to save the file, go back here to Unity. So correct answer, incorrect answer. Perfect. Alright, so back to our sound class. We have now loaded those clips, but now we need to actually play them. So let's create a method to do that. So we want to say, what, play match made clip. We'll just call it sound to kind of match the other one. And likewise, we'll have a public void play match not made sound. So we want to set our audio sources clip to the match made clip, and the audio source loop should not loop, and then finally we'll play it. We kind of want to do the exact same thing for no match, except it should be match not made clip. So now we have those methods created from our sound class. We can go over here to our game controller and find the right times to actually call them. So let's scroll down here until we find where we're actually setting the score. So right here is where we actually want to play the match made, right? Because we made a match in this event, and as we're adding the score, we'll go ahead and play the match made sound. Likewise, we want to play the match isn't made up here. So sounds match not made. And if you decided to make a strike sound, then you could do so here. Right underneath here, you could say something like, you know, sounds play strike sound, if you want to create a special sound for when the strike shows up. We don't have one. I'm not going to make one, but that's where you could easily put that code in there as well. So let's hit play here in Unity and see if our sounds work for when a match is made and when a match is not made. Boom, boom. How about that? So if you notice, when you select it on the last one, since the match still isn't made, so right here, it's going to make the wrong answer, even though the P is going to be there, because we didn't actually get it. Right, and that kind of brings up the strike. There we go. 3 strikes. But all of our sounds are working. And it wasn't a whole lot of effort to create the sounds. We just simply created the sounds class. We decided to set it up through code. And so we just simply, the only thing we had to do in the editor was create a new tag called item audio source, so we could actually find that in our game controller. We did it through code to explicitly look for that tag here. So as long as that was done, that's the only correlation between all of our sound class and the actual editor. So the key was to create this item audio source. We started as an empty object. We then added in the audio source component. We also added in the tag. We made sure it was a 3D object. That way, if we're ever moving around the table, whatever, that the sound will be coming from the table, the shuffling, or the right answers, wrong answers. Yeah, we went ahead and selected loop here, but whether we did or we didn't, it really doesn't matter. In fact, I'll go and uncheck it. I thought I had unchecked before. So, and then over here, because the reason why it doesn't matter is because in our sound class itself, as we load all the clips from the resources audio folder, as we play each clip, for the item shuffling, we'll go and set that to true. That way the animation will stop whenever it wants to. And then for our actual, match made or match not made, those should not be looping. And so we just explicitly set those to false and simply call play. And since there's nothing to make it stop playing, there's no reason to even have any stop, match made or stop match not made. But for the shuffling, we wanted to add in this stop in case we had a pretty long shuffle. If we wanted to let that shuffle do multiple times, then we could have done that. Well, that's going to wrap up this session where we talked about audio and getting the sounds into our game. So things are coming along nicely. The next thing I want to do, and what we'll do in the next session, is when we're playing and we get the right answer, we'll create a little particle effect that will just launch from whatever item was right. It will just create a little particle effect there. So that's going to be the next session. Appreciate you joining me as we're creating a game from start to finish, and as we're here wrapping up this series. So just a couple more sessions to go. And again, the very next session is going to be creating particles. So if you're interested in particles, make sure you watch out for that. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you can be reminded at some point in the future to check out these videos. And if you liked the video, by all means hit that like button, let me know it. If you didn't like it, hit that dislike button. My feelings won't be hurt. I'll just know not to spend my time doing these in the future. So thanks so much for sticking with me, and I hope you have a fantastic week. I'll see you in the next video.